We are coming on the air with a new assessment for troops that are closing in on Kyiv, why the Pentagon now says the Russians have momentum as they start to make this circle around the Ukrainian capital. Ahead, why President Biden is warning that Russia will pay a severe price if it uses chemical weapons as he hits them on trade. Plus, a new court filing shows Alec Baldwin trying to avoid any financial responsibility for that deadly shooting of a cinematographer on a movie set last year. Why lawyers for the actor say his contract makes him, quote, untouchable. And spring may be coming, but it's not here yet, with nearly a third of the country expected to get wicked winter weather this weekend. Al Roker's got the forecast in your neck of the woods, coming right up. Plus, tens of thousands of people who use meth are now meeting online on everyday social media platforms. NBC's frightening look at how members of these communities are opening up. That's in tonight's Backstory. And the banks better have Rihanna's money because she may be on the verge of seeing a lot more dollar signs. Why the pop star's fashion brand might be worth billions when it goes public. That's later in our show. Good Friday, everyone. I'm Kristen Welker in for my friend Hallie Jackson. And we start tonight with Russian troops circling Kyiv, preparing for a potential full-scale attack in the next couple of weeks. Here's what it looks like from these satellite images. The Pentagon saying Russian forces aren't necessarily closer to the Ukrainian capital, but they are gaining momentum, making moves that suggest a potential attack from multiple sides. And new video today shows Ukrainian soldiers in the middle of a fight with the Russians, who are advancing by foot just outside Kyiv. In almost every other major city, though, it's a bombing campaign from the air, from the north, south, east, and west. They're hitting factories, schools, and in one city, a care center for people with special needs. Vladimir Putin so far seems to be undeterred. At his meeting today with Belarus's President Putin saying sanctions are not going to stop him. But Putin's defiance isn't stopping President Biden from issuing new trade rules that will target $1 billion worth of Russian imports, including seafood, vodka, and diamonds. And he's urging Congress to take action, too. We'll have more on that and the growing humanitarian crisis later in the show. But we do want to begin with Matt Bradley, who is live for us in Ukraine. And Matt, we are getting our first glimpse out in Kherson of what a Russian occupation of Ukraine might look like. What are you seeing in that city now?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first city that was actually taken and occupied. I should say the first major city that was occupied by the Russians. And it's a city that's still in crisis. You know, it was just a week ago that we were seeing these Chersonians, if you can call them, triumphantly protesting in front of the Russians, standing, waving Ukrainian flags on tanks, shouting curse words in the faces of Russian soldiers. Now that's all changed. The situation there is very much muted compared to what it was just a week ago. Part of the problem is that the Russian National Guard has since been deployed into Kherson. We're seeing reports of that in the environs around Kherson. Now, why is that so threatening? The reason is because the soldiers who were there were not interested in shooting these protesters. But these are sort of paramilitary. These are a unit of kind of the internal police within Russia that were created by direct order by Vladimir Putin back in 2016. They are directly answerable to Vladimir Putin, to the president. And now they're in Kherson, and they're going about their business of suppressing dissent in the same way they would in Moscow or any other major Russian city. And I spoke with someone in Kherson. Here's what he had to say.
Only they blockade us from food and medicine and basic necessities, but also they are preparing to imprison those who disagree, those who protest.
So we've also heard from the mayor and from the Ukrainian military. They said that about a couple days ago, 400 people were arrested en masse by the Russians in Kherson. So that's a chilling reminder that this isn't just a military offensive. This is rapidly turning into an occupation that's on the march.
It is chilling indeed. That's the exact right word for it. Matt, I want to talk about Kyiv. And of course, we've seen these images increasingly encircled by the Russians. The city's mayor saying they've got a couple weeks of supplies left. Tell us how bad the situation is on the ground there for people who are still in Kyiv and who are trapped, frankly.
To be honest, when I speak with people who are in Kyiv, they say that the situation isn't quite so dire. It's not as though they're actually running out of food right now. These are estimates. These are, prognostications of what could be happening in the coming days or weeks. But when you look at a situation like Mariupol in the southeast, it is the situation in Kyiv is hanging precariously on falling into that situation where people are without food, without water, without electricity or heat or medicine for days or weeks at a time. Now, Mariupol is a much smaller situation, much smaller city than Kyiv. So when we're talking about the capital city succumbing to that kind of pressure and that kind of humanitarian disaster, it could really be a horrible situation. And that could allow for the Russian military, who are now surrounding the capital, to move in very easily and subdue the population. Kristen? Yeah, and that is, of course, the big concern, Matt. Let's talk about President Zelensky. Day after day, he's giving these defiant speeches, continuing to say Ukraine is going to fight and beat back these Russian forces. He's really stunned the entire world, and frankly, so have all of the people of Ukraine. He's calling this moment a strategic turning point. What does he mean by that, Matt? Yeah, I got to tell you, Kristen, I didn't know what that meant. And I think a lot of people don't know what that means. The fact is that the President Zelensky has a lot to be proud of. The Ukrainian military and the Ukrainian public have a lot to be proud of. So if he wants a turning point, we're hoping it turns in an even better direction than it has been. And it's not that things have necessarily been going all that well. But as you mentioned, the Ukrainian military has surprised and impressed the world in 2 weeks of fighting against a far more overwhelming military power. So it's hard to know exactly what he means by a strategic turning point. I think he might mean the diplomacy and the sanctions that are coming to bear against Russia amongst the international community. Kristen? Yeah, and we are about to delve more deeply into all of that. Matt, your reporting continues to be extraordinary. Please stay safe. Thank you. Now to the international response, where today's UN Security Council meeting focused on Russia's allegations that the U.S. is supporting a so-called biological weapons program in Ukraine. It's a claim the Kremlin is making without any evidence. The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, says it's Russia making those weapons and that Russia is lying to the world.
Russia has a track record of falsely accusing other countries of the very violations that Russia itself is perpetrating.
A rep for the United Nations saying there's no evidence of biological weapons programs being set up on either side. Andrea Mitchell is here to talk more about all of this and all of the developments today. Andrea, thank you so much for being here in person. Great to see you. Let's start with some of what we heard from President Biden today. He, of course, made that big announcement ending regular trade relations with Russia, but he got a question at the end, and I want to start there. He said there would be severe consequences if Russia uses chemical weapons. What did you make of that? What's the significance?
He has to make that a red line. And there's controversy in the past, of course, with the Obama administration making that a red line in Syria and then not following up adequately, according to a lot of the allies. But in this case, this has to be a red line. This is not, it is a war crime. It is hideous. We've seen what happened in Syria when Syria, with Russia's help and support, hit the resistance groups and the rebel groups with, these horrible weapons, these killing weapons. Now, Russia has used those weapons in its own case against Alexei Navalny. It's used nerve gas, as you know, in the Skripal case in the UK, and they've used them in support in Syria. So the Ned Price at the State Department this afternoon telling us that they have profound concern. They're not saying they have hard evidence. They say in the past, when Russia has pointed to others, asking for this Security Council meeting today, saying that we are doing it, that the U.S. is doing it, helping Ukraine with these labs, which is just flatly not true. Well, this in the past has been Russia's way of projecting something that they are likely next to do. And if Vladimir Putin gets, cornered, what is he likely to do? This would be one of the real fears.
That is one of the real fears. And Andrea, I guess the challenge for the president, for the administration, is they continue to insist, and you heard the president today lay out arguably one of his most forceful arguments yet for not escalating this crisis, saying this could lead to World War III if we involve the U.S. military in any way, shape, or form.
He's getting so much pressure from the Hill, from Republicans as well as Democrats. Zelensky gave that speech to 300 members of Congress and staff over the weekend, a virtual speech, and he sold them on it. And you've heard the Pentagon and the president say this would not only expand the war, but this would not be effective. They have their own jets that they're not even flying because that airspace is so contested. It's a suicide mission. that we're giving them what they need, which is, the surface-to-air weapons to try to hit these helicopters. They're shooting down helicopters and planes. They're being very successful at that. That said, I don't know if he can resist the pressure. As the CIA director and others testified this week, they're going to begin to grind down the Russians as they move and encircle Kyiv and these other cities. They're going to grind down the resistance. The civilian death, the humanitarian disaster is going to be, just horrible for all of the people of Ukraine. And can he resist the pressure to do more?
That is going to be the question, because, of course, the images that we're seeing every day are just heartbreaking. Andrea, let's talk about the announcement that the president made on trade to end regular trade relations with Russia. He needs Congress's approval to do it, but there's bipartisan support. Let's play a little piece of what he said, and I'll get your reaction.
Going to make it harder for Russia to do business with the United States, and doing it in unison with other nations that make up half of the global economy will be another crushing blow. Putin is an aggressor. He is the aggressor, and Putin must pay the price.
How big of an impact does a move like this have, given that the U.S. did it in concert with its allies?
Well, that's what makes it more effective, because Europe and other countries take a lot. Japan, a lot from Russia, the vodka and some of the other exports. It's not as big a deal as the central bank sanctions. They were dramatically important. Those central bank sanctions came out of the blue. Putin clearly did not expect it. They hadn't moved their money outside of the country. And, the ruble is now, 1 ruble is worth something, as the president said, like $200. The ruble is worth almost nothing. And the president also said today that the reason why they haven't reopened their stock market is it's going to blow up when it reopens. It's going to fall apart.
Another step in the pressure campaign. We'll have to see if it works. Andrea, thank you so much. This is complicated stuff, and thank you for helping us to understand it. It's important stuff, right? It is. Thanks for being here. Well, the crisis in Ukraine is one of the big reasons gas prices are going up so much. And now states are looking for solutions for Americans feeling the pain. According to AAA, gas prices hit another record $4.33 a gallon. That's a small increase from yesterday, but it's a big difference if you look at the number just last week, up 50 cents from last Friday. In Maryland, Governor Larry Hogan plans to suspend the state's 36 cents a gallon gas tax. And moves like that are coming at a good time, because according to a survey, more people are saying they will be forced to change their driving habits if prices keep going up. Gary Grumbach has been out talking to drivers today, and he's joining us from Maryland. Gary, thanks for being here. What are drivers telling you? Are they losing patience with these gas prices?
Hey there, Kristen. Yeah, file this under can't catch a break. Just as coronavirus case numbers are decreasing across the country and mask mandates are going away in all 50 states, we are seeing that the trips and vacations that people have been talking about for more than 2 years now are going to be more expensive than ever, way more expensive than ever. We're here at a rest stop off I-95 in Maryland. I want to take a look at these gas prices here. It's $4.53 for regular, $5.49 for a gallon of diesel, and this is even the most expensive gas in the nation. If you're looking for that, you can go to California, where we're seeing gas at $5.72 a gallon. Now, if you're looking for the cheapest gas in the nation, that's going to be in the St. Louis area of Missouri, where it's at $3.85 a gallon. But this is all adding up, and it's adding to a lot of frustration. Take a listen.
I think I'm going to go to a bicycle pretty quick. This is ridiculous.
Can I ask how much you just spent for gas here today?
It was over $50.
What do you make of that?
Not happy.
It's tough, though. Seriously. It's tough. And if you're on Social Security, like I'm a retired veteran, so it's hard, man.
So the high prices are, changing the way people are certainly traveling. Some people told me they're opting for those more fuel-efficient cars that maybe goes more per gallon. And they're also saying that they are maybe going to go and take the trip that they were on today, but stay at home for a while until these prices become lower. Kristen?
Gary, it's just extraordinary to hear how people are changing their behaviors because of these gas prices. And I appreciate your characterizing what the people you interviewed said. That was really helpful. We did obviously have a little technical glitch there. Gary, let's talk about some of the actions that we're seeing. Governors like Larry Hogan are getting rid of suspending the gas tax. This is a big debate on Capitol Hill right now. Not clear that that's going to happen nationwide. Talk about some of the conversations that are happening all across the country about that.
Yeah, they're just that, conversations right now. Senators Maggie Hassan and Mark Kelly are both supporting legislation that would eliminate the federal gas tax, which is 18 cents. It would make things a little bit cheaper all over the country. And actually, Republican House Leader Kevin McCarthy is open to this idea as well, but he says it's not going to be a permanent solution. Now, those in favor of the gas tax say cutting it would really be detrimental to the environment. It would certainly also damage infrastructure budgets around the country, and it would also, they view, as a handout to the rich. Kristen?
Gary Grumbach, thanks for breaking it all down, and thanks for your great reporting. Really appreciate it. Good to see you. Tonight, there is a new development in the fallout from the Rust movie shooting. In a legal filing out today, actor Alec Baldwin says his contract makes him, quote, untouchable in any lawsuit against him for the shooting that killed cinematographer Halyna Hutchins on the set of the film. Baldwin also goes on to blame the shooting on whoever loaded the gun with a live round. The actor's lawyers filed an arbitration demand against other producers on the film, claiming Baldwin is protected from financial responsibility for Hutchins' death and asking his fellow producers to cover Baldwin's legal fees. Baldwin, who was holding the gun when it went off, goes on to say in the filing that it was Hutchins who told him how to point the gun, writing, quote, she directed Baldwin to hold the gun higher to a point where it was directed toward her. Katie Beck joins me now with all of the late-breaking details. So, Katie, break this down. Alec Baldwin has given interviews about the shooting, but this is really the most detailed account that we are getting from his legal team. What did you find really stood out to you in the filing?
Well, I think the most interesting part, Kristen, is that we've seen him deny accountability on this before, but this is really the first time that he's assigning blame very directly to others, saying an actor is not responsible and not even possible to determine whether or not a gun is deemed safe or it's in fact a cold gun, as they like to say on the set. In this filing, he spells it out. If everybody else had done their job that day, this horrific tragedy would not have happened. In fact, he remarks on the fact that he is haunted by this tragedy, almost making himself seem sort of victimized, if you will, and putting the blame squarely on the other people whose job it was to ensure that this gun did not have a live round on it. He's saying someone else is culpable for putting that fatal live round in the chamber, and that someone else isn't Alec Baldwin. So it's very clear in this latest filing that not only is he denying responsibility, he's placing blame squarely at the feet of others.
It really is an extraordinary development. And of course, we know that Alec Baldwin is named in several other lawsuits over this shooting, including one by Hutchins' husband. And of course, he was interviewed just last month by Hoda. Take a look at this.
I just felt so angry, just so angry to see him talk about her death so publicly in such a detailed way, and then to not accept any responsibility after having just described killing her.
Such an emotional interview. And of course, the new filing shows text messages between the two and details their relationship before it soured. What have you learned there, Katie?
Well, Baldwin also included in that filing, Kristen, that up until that Today Show interview, the interactions had been polite, friendly, cordial, that these two men had had a pretty good relationship, even saying we're going to have to share this grieving process together initially after it had happened. Baldwin also points out that there was initially some discussion of a settlement, and that her husband felt somewhat open to that in their early conversations. In their later conversations closer to that Today Show interview, he didn't seem as open to that possibility. So it does seem like time had passed, but you also have to take into account Alec Baldwin had done some interviews in between that time. So there was an initial grieving period right after the shooting happened where it seemed the two of them were coming together. And then Alec Baldwin did go on a number of national outlets saying he didn't feel responsible for this. So hearing that out loud, could have really changed. And according to the interview done with Hoda, it seems it really did change the tone of that relationship.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And of course, we all remember those early images of Alec Baldwin with her husband, and clearly something very significant changed in the wake of those interviews. Katie Beck, thank you for staying on top of this developing story for us. We really appreciate it. Coming up, more reports of families investigated in Texas for providing gender-affirming care for their kids. The latest on the fight playing out in court. And 2 years to the day after COVID was declared a pandemic, are we putting enough into preparing for what might be coming next? Stay with us. We're back after a quick break. 130 million people are under alerts for a wicked weekend winter storm that's already bringing high wind, heavy rain, and snow to parts of the country. The biggest threat right now are storms expected to bring damaging winds of up to 75 miles per hour across the southeast and Gulf Coast. There's also the risk throughout the night for tornadoes. Adding to the mix, snow and cold temperatures made roads slick in Arkansas today, causing several accidents along Interstate 49. It was the same story in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where at least one person died when their truck slid off the road. And that snow is headed east now as the storm intensifies and heads up the I-95 corridor. Al Roker is tracking the storm for us in Austin. Al, great to see you. Thanks for being here. A lot of people are surprised by this. We are well into March and winter doesn't seem to be going away. What are you tracking?
Yeah, including, right now, Kristen, I'm in Austin. Yesterday it was 76 degrees and sunny. Right now, it's a wind chill of 32 and wind gust of 33 miles per hour. This is the tail end of a 2,000-mile long system. You can see right now we've got 130 million people under some sort of winter weather advisory, winter storm warning, wind advisory. Plus, we have, as you mentioned, severe weather to talk about. Down through the southeast, an enhanced risk of dangerous weather. We're talking about 17 million people at risk. These are the tornadoes that could happen, Kristen. We're talking nocturnal tornadoes. They are twice as deadly as the daytime variety. So we're going to be watching that very closely. Here's what we're looking at. This system, as you can see, radar showing strong storms firing up already. To the north of this, from Cincinnati all the way down into the southeast, we're looking at snow. So overnight tonight, rain, wind, heavy snow battering the east, and then this low intensifies. You've heard us talk about a bomb cyclone going through bombogenesis. It has the pressure in this system has to drop 24 millibars in 24 hours. In the next 48 hours, Kristen, this is going to probably drop about 80 millibars, and that's going to bring in temperatures, much colder air behind it. So as that pushes through, we are going to be watching snow developing along the I-95 corridor with a rain-snow mix depending on where the rain-snow line sets up, but also strong storms along the southeastern coast. And then once that system moves through, we're going to be talking about in northern New England upwards of a foot of snow or more, but generally 3 to 6 inches. Pennsylvania all the way down to the Appalachians. And rainfall amounts as we slide to the south. Kristen, we are talking about some places picking up to 3 to 4 inches of rain. So there could be some flooding, especially in the panhandle areas of Florida, Kristen.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, we will brace for it. Al Roker, I know you're very busy. Thank you for joining us from Texas. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you. You bet.
All right, we now want to get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Jussie Smollett has been sentenced to 150 days in jail and 30 months probation for lying to police about being the victim of a racist hate crime in 2019. The former Empire actor was found guilty of 5 counts of felony disorderly conduct in December. Smollett still claims he's innocent and says if anything happens to him in jail, he didn't do it to himself. Number 2, the Department of Justice says it uncovered more than $8 billion in COVID aid fraud. A new director has been appointed specifically to prevent these crimes. The DOJ says hundreds of people have been charged with aid fraud since the start of the pandemic. Number 3, the IRS is hiring 10,000 workers to help clear a tax return backlog. The hiring spree is meant to tackle more than 20 million unprocessed returns. The Revenue Service hopes new employees will help with staff shortages in what's being called the most challenging tax season in history. Number 4, Better.com is making headlines again for firing more employees. We told you a few months ago the CEO caught a lot of heat for laying off 900 people over a Zoom call. Well, now the company has sacked another 3,000 workers, according to the New York Times. Some were sent severance checks before they even heard they were fired. Number 5, a series of original NASA photographs from the Apollo mission sold for 1.6 million Danish crowns at an auction in Copenhagen. That's around 171,000 US dollars. One of the photos includes the iconic image of Buzz Aldrin's 1969 moonwalk. Just incredible. That was actually taken by Neil Armstrong, and you can even see him in the reflection of Aldrin's visor. That is pretty cool stuff there. Well, it's been 2 years since the World Health Organization declared a pandemic as the coronavirus surge was just getting started. Hard to believe, right? Well, today there's a dramatic decline in new COVID infections in 48 states, thankfully. A totally different view from what we saw in 2020. Back then, the U.S. only had 1,200 cases nationwide, but the WHO warned the virus was spreading out of control. 6 million people have died across the globe, more than 970,000 of those deaths right here in the U.S. With the developments of tests and vaccines, some experts think we have turned the tide, and now the focus has shifted to learning to live with the virus. But to do that, the federal government says it needs $1.5 trillion to pay for key tools to get ahead of new viruses and variants. But right now, Congress hasn't approved that money. Dr. John Torres is here to discuss all that and more. Dr. John, good to see you. Hard to believe it has been 2 years. So where are we now right now? Have we turned the tide?
And Kristen, you're right. It's been 2 years since the declaration of a pandemic, but even more so, it's been longer since they declared what they call a public health emergency of international concern. And that's when the mechanisms, the legal mechanisms, are set in place for countries to start cooperating, start giving more information to everybody else, and to really try and get it under control. That didn't work. A month and a half later, they declared the pandemic. And since then, we've made some good strides. We've had some stumbles along the way. And I think we're getting to the point where we are about to say, we're heading into that endemic phase. But one thing that the World Health Organization is very adamant about, and I agree with them, is unless this is controlled around the world, it's not going to be controlled anywhere. So we could be in an endemic phase here in the U.S., having pandemics in other parts of the world that we really need to be careful of, because this is a very small world. And one thing we have found out in this pandemic versus other ones is the importance of realizing that public health measures don't just take into account the science behind, masking, social distancing, isolating, but also the public health measures of, people needing to work, to get food, people needing to have a shelter, people needing to be able to socialize, other things. And with social media being out there, this became an even bigger issue, a lot more pressure put on politicians to try and end these things sooner rather than later. And so there is that worry that the other shoe could drop and we could get back to where we were before. Hopefully not, Kristen, but it's a possibility.
Do you think the country is prepared to deal with new variants, Dr. John? I mean, we saw with Omicron, the administration, public health officials were caught off guard to some extent. Do you think that the country will be better prepared next time?
I think we learned lessons both from Delta and Omicron, because both those variants caught us off guard to a certain extent. And now they're doing more surveillance. They're looking at it harder to make sure they can keep on top of it. And I think they've understood better the messaging they need to get out there as far as, hey, let's go ahead and mask up again. Let's go ahead and have remote school, remote work type things again to try and keep it under control. So I think they're going to be less hesitant to do that early on and keep those variants under control if they do happen. Hopefully they won't, because we have a high vaccination rate. But if they do, I think we're more prepared for it, Kristen.
And as I said at the top, funding for more COVID aid is held up in Congress right now. There's a big back and forth over this. How much is that possibly hampering the country's readiness for that next variant or that next curveball that we might get?
It's interesting, Kristen. Every expert I talk to says exactly the same thing. Funding is the key to making sure this doesn't happen again. And if you look at pandemics in the past, everything from the 1918 flu, 1968 flu pandemic, the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, and now we were caught off guard every single time, because typically what happens as people, we tend to have short memories. So for the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on funding the research and everything needed to prevent the next pandemic. But over time, that's going to go away, and hopefully we don't get caught off guard again like we have in the past.
And just very quickly, we learned yesterday that the TSA still wants people to be masked when they are traveling on planes, on trains, on buses through mid-April at least. What do you make of that? And do you have concerns about taking off masks in such close quarters?
I do have concerns about taking off masks in close quarters, but I think one thing they did that is very good is they extended it another month to April 18th. We'll have a better understanding of where we are with the virus and whether there are any variants out there that we need to be worried about, and can make a decision at that point. I think they're being very judicious about how they make these decisions and getting people to remove them on transportation, mainly because, as well, you remember, we live in a globe, we live in a world, and so people coming from other nations could be causing issues here as far as bringing variants in. We just need to be very careful with that, Kristen.
All right, great information as always. Dr. John Torres, thanks so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
Well, also tonight, a judge in Texas is deciding whether to stop state officials from investigating reports of gender-affirming care for trans kids as child abuse. This after she heard arguments from lawyers for the ACLU and Lambda Legal. Last month, Governor Greg Abbott called on licensed professionals and members of the general public to report parents letting their kids undergo what he calls, quote, abusive procedures. Texas's Family and Protective Services Department says it has 9 open investigations right now. Some of the biggest medical groups have come out against Republican-backed restrictions like this one. Last year, the American Medical Association wrote a letter saying every major medical association in the U.S. recognizes the medical necessity of transition-related care for transgender people. Brooke Sapelsa from NBC Out is following this really important story. Brooke, thanks so much for being here. What stood out to you from today's hearing?
So from today's hearing, which is still going on, I believe, this morning we heard from a supervisor at that Texas department that is investigating those child abuse cases. And she revealed that she just stepped down because of this policy. She said that she and the people in her department are not equipped to come between medical providers and families of transgender youth. She also noted that Texas officials had told her and her colleagues to prioritize these cases of transgender youth getting gender-affirming care. So toward the end of her testimony, from what I heard, she said that she had always felt that her department had the best interest of Texas children, and that she started to feel like they no longer did, so she stepped down.
That's pretty powerful. Look, earlier this week, a bill passed in Idaho's House that would make medical treatments for transgender kids a felony punishable by life in prison. And obviously, these types of measures put parents in an awful position. Either they support their kids or they get embroiled in legal issues. Can you talk about the broader implications of these types of laws and developments?
Sure. And just for some national context, we've seen over a dozen states introduce, I think, 25 or more bills just so far this year that would try to limit transgender affirming healthcare. So these bills would have impacts on parents, healthcare providers, and the trans youth themselves. You could see parents and healthcare providers get prison sentences. And then experts have said that denying transgender youth gender affirming healthcare could have serious both physical and mental harm. We've seen studies saying that when youth are able to access gender-affirming care, they have less instances of anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. So definitely the stakes are high when it comes to these bills. The Idaho bill in particular is one of the more extreme bills in that it would actually punish parents who take their children out of state to get gender-affirming care.
And one of the things that I find so interesting is that the corporate community is actually applying pressure. Major companies like Apple and Google published a full-page ad today in the Dallas Morning News supporting the families with this headline, quote, "Discrimination is bad for business." What kind of reaction is this getting, Brooke?
So we're seeing a lot of advocates applaud companies stepping up in this way, but we've also seen people call out some companies that have not been on that were not on that ad. One company in particular that's gotten called out has been Texas-based Dell. So, a mix of reactions.
All right, Brooke Sapelsa, thank you for your reporting on this really important issue. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, Tens of thousands of Ukrainian refugees are flooding into Poland each and every day, and the country is struggling to manage the influx. Why some local officials say they feel abandoned by world leaders, and the invasion's being felt far beyond just Eastern Europe. We'll take a look at how it's even impacting international space exploration in The Original. That's next. There are now 100,000 people coming from Ukraine into Poland every day, with more than 1.5 million in just 2 weeks. Tonight, Warsaw's mayor is begging for help, as he told my colleague Chuck Todd earlier today.
We need to relocate. We need a system. We need the United Nations and the European Union in here in Poland setting up reception centers, and we need a real relocation program in Europe and in the world. This is a huge logistics enterprise. We cannot improvise anymore.
And you can see the crowds in Warsaw. Take a look, a city of 2 million that's gotten 230,000 more people. Or at the border checkpoints where children are holding on to whatever they have as they stand out in the cold. Or at the train station in Krakow, where crowds are setting up sleeping areas on the ground, even with cribs, as they try to find a place to stay. And that is where Ellison Barber is reporting from right now. Ellison, thank you for being with us. So just let us know what you are seeing and hearing there at that train station.
So this is one of the main train hubs here in Krakow. The mayor of Krakow has warned, similar to the mayor of Warsaw, saying that the city is sort of at their limit when it comes to what the system can handle. About 1,000 refugees are said to be in this city alone, and you can see some of the sleeping quarters. We're trying to kind of stay a little bit back to give people some space here, but it's almost midnight here. You can see this train station still quite full. All of the people you see here, they are refugees from Ukraine. This is one of the areas where people come first, and then there is an information center where we have seen people in the last day or so waiting in line for hours trying to get to the front of it just so they can ask someone, hey, is there some sort of accommodation in the city available? What we are seeing here, what we are being told, the answer is no. They are running really low on options. We've seen so many different volunteer efforts. You see all of them here in the yellow vest, people showing up just to help people. But then you see this, children, families sleeping in the train station because they have nowhere else to go. One thing the mayor has said here is that a lot of the people have come to big cities like Krakow, like Warsaw, because they hope they can go back to Ukraine soon. So they don't want to go further into the country. But the city, they are overwhelmed right now with people, and they are very worried about what things will look like in a week, 2, 3 weeks. If, for instance, you have a medical healthcare hospital system that is strained because they have their residents here already, they need to help in addition to just this growing number of refugees. Over 2.3 million people have fled Ukraine, the majority of them coming here to Poland. Kristen.
It's just heartbreaking, those images that you are showing us, and to imagine being there with your family and with your children. Ellison, what are the people who were there with you in that train station telling you about what the toughest part of this all is? So many of them have said they really struggled to leave their home.
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to be a refugee, and that's true of this situation. That's true of Syria, Venezuela, any sort of crisis you have. What we hear again and again is everyone here, they want to go home. They want to be with their families. What makes this particular situation different than some others is that men who are considered fighting age, between the ages of 18 and 60, they cannot leave the country. So when we're talking to people crossing into this country, most of them women and children, there is this immediate resolve. I don't have any children, Kristen, but I think it is a very much a mom focus of where when they cross into Poland, the mothers that we're meeting, there's this immediate sense of relief that they know they and their children are safe. You can see in their eyes the trauma, the devastation of what they've been through, what they're going through with their children right now. But then there is this immediate mom gear of where they're just so focused on what they need to do next to make sure their children are safe. And for a lot of people, when we first started covering this 2 weeks ago, we were meeting refugees who were coming to Poland because they had families, they had friends here. Now we're meeting people who they don't know anyone in the country. They've left because they had no other choice, and they are just trying to figure out minute by minute where they go from here, how they make sure their children are fed, and most importantly, have some sort of safe shelter option. And unfortunately for some people, the safest option seems to be the train station, because at least it's warm and there's some level of law enforcement and security here, because families are being told there are not any more rooms, any more hotels left in this city for them to stay.
I can't imagine the horror and the fear that those families, that those mothers that you detail so clearly are going through. And just very quickly, I know you interviewed the man who runs one of the centers there, and he says he needs more help from the government there.
Yeah, I'll let you just listen to what he said. But basically, we have seen these kind of minute-by-minute ad hoc volunteer efforts to provide aid. He's saying that there is not enough organization beyond the border from the federal government, and that if that does not change, there are going to be some really big issues here in the coming days and weeks. Listen to what he had to say.
I can give safe aid to 1,000 people per day, but we have like 120,000 people in Krakow right now. Yeah, so I cannot create the system. I'm not a prime minister or president of the European Union. I'm just a small NGO here in Krakow.
And when you look at these faces, Kristen, this little boy, these are the images that we keep seeing. And the thing that I will leave you with is it is the most vulnerable, the youngest people that have been impacted by this war. And every single one of them, they want to go home. Most importantly, they want to be reunited with their dads, who they are afraid they may never see again. Kristen?
Yeah. Thank you for being there to tell their stories, Ellison. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your reporting. Thank you. Now we want to bring you today's original with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been tracking. Russia's role in the International Space Station hangs in the balance as they refuse to sell rocket engines, something they make a lot of, to the U.S. It's yet another consequence of the ongoing fallout from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And a key player is inflaming the dialogue. The director of Russia's space program sent a tweet suggesting if the U.S. were to block Russian cooperation in the International Space Station, it could have dire consequences for the spacecraft itself. Vaughn Hilliard has more on the future of the international space exploration.
Russia's deadly war on land is now impacting international efforts far beyond, in space.
It'll degrade their aerospace industry, including their space program.
Pointed words from President Biden announcing sanctions on Russia after the first days of the invasion. Now Russia symbolically removing other countries' flags from its rockets, including the United States. Russia's space director in a tweet saying the rockets were now, quote, more beautiful, prompting former NASA astronaut Scott Kelly to respond, without those flags and the foreign exchange they bring in, your space program won't be worth a damn. Maybe you can find a job at McDonald's if McDonald's still exists in Russia.
The space program has always risen above, geopolitical issues here on the ground, if you will. And this really puts a huge impact and hampers the international relations on the space station. So it's very concerning.
Relief. The structural ramifications of this wedge, consequential. In retaliation, Russia says it will no longer supply the U.S. with the RD-180, a major engine used in several American rockets. Russia's space director saying on Russian state TV, quote, let them fly on something else, their broomsticks.
How does Russia's refusal to supply additional engines for these rockets impact U.S. efforts?
There's several companies all throughout the country that are developing new engines and new launch vehicles. I think we're going to be fine. And I think it's going to hurt Russia then far more than it'll hurt the United States.
The European Space Agency is also distancing itself, saying it is, quote, very unlikely it will go forward with a joint mission this year to launch and land a robot on Mars. Russia even suggesting they'd allow the International Space Station to crash. Their space director tweeting, who will save the ISS from an uncontrolled deorbit and fall into the United States or Europe?
I think that relationship may be changed forever. I'm not sure that it could ever go back to what it was.
The International Space Station, though, currently occupied by 7 astronauts, including 4 Americans and 2 Russians.
How tied together are each nation's efforts in space?
So for the space station, it's highly coordinated. We're talking about a facility the size of a football field that is in orbit, and that takes a lot of energy and highly coordinated efforts.
What an absolutely fascinating report. And Vaughn Hilliard joins me now live in person. Thanks for being here, Vaughn. This is one of the fallouts from this tragedy that I think a lot of people don't think of. So how is NASA responding to everything that you just laid out there?
I think the immediate concern is what's happening at the International Space Station. And I just want everybody to take a look at NASA's statement, what they said, because they are insisting, they are still cooperating with Russia, at least when it comes to the station, saying, quote, NASA continues working with all our international partners, including the State Space Corporation, Roscosmos, for the ongoing safe operations of the International Space Station. The new export control measures will continue to allow U.S.-Russia civil space cooperation. No changes are planned to the agency's support for ongoing in-orbit and ground station operations.
Okay, so pretty firm statement there from NASA. Obviously, you talked about the fact that there are still astronauts at the International Space Station. Talk a little bit about the logistics moving forward at this point.
In fact, this is all in real time. We're talking about on March 30th, just about 2.5 weeks from now, 1 American and 2 Russians are slated to leave the International Space Station together on a rocket, landing on a Russian base in Kazakhstan. Now, again, as you just heard from NASA, the plan is that that will continue and proceed. But at the same time, of course, we're looking at about 3 weeks until that point comes.
Just extraordinary. And I think you really hit the nail on the head. This is minute by minute, so it could be changing at any time. Great reporting, Fawn Hilliard. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. And still to come, Florida's moving forward with yet another bill, the second this week, limiting what can be discussed in schools. This time, what teachers can say when it comes to race. And Rihanna's fashion company is reportedly weighing a multi-billion, yes, that's billion with a B, IPO. We take a look at why some major banks believe the brand is worth so much after a quick break. NBC News covers hundreds of stories each day, and because you couldn't possibly read, watch, or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done that for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we like to call The Local. From our West Coast bureau, thousands of Sacramento teachers and staff voted to authorize a strike. They say the school district has been bargaining with them in, quote, bad faith, and are frustrated over things like staff shortages and low pay. A date for the strike has not been set. From our Southeast bureau, Florida Senate has passed a bill that would limit how teachers talk about race in classrooms. Republicans in the state have been pushing for legislation to prevent critical race theory from being taught in schools. But opponents say the bill would create racial divisions. It's now headed to Governor Ron DeSantis' desk. This comes just days, of course, after the Don't Say Gay bill passed in the state, also headed to the governor's desk. And from our D.C. bureau, Maryland lawmakers voted to ban cat declawing unless it's necessary for medical reasons. It's now the second state trying to ban the practice. Advocates say declawing is inhumane and hurts cats. The bill still needs to go through a couple of more rounds of votes before it gets sent over to the governor's desk. Well, it's time to get the backstory, our behind-the-scenes look at how a story comes together and how it fits into our bigger picture. We all got used to, of course, connecting over Zoom during the pandemic. But an NBC News report uncovered a really frightening reality, a massive community of meth users using Zoom and other platforms to connect with each other. We're talking groups of tens of thousands of people, according to this report. Now, it found many were joining around-the-clock Zoom rooms of people meeting to use meth for weeks at a time, with anywhere from 50 to 150 people on video using together. And it's not just Zoom. NBC also uncovered Reddit groups of people posting photos and videos of themselves using and looking for meth connections, Facebook groups with people selling the drug, as well as Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, and Instagram profiles, all devoted to meth content in varying degrees. The growth of these communities is coinciding with a meth boom in the U.S., up 66% in the last 4 years. These tech companies we mentioned have responded forcefully, saying illegal activity is not allowed on their platforms. Representatives for Zoom saying this type of activity is not welcome, and we take action whenever we become aware of it. But even though companies say they're trying to intervene, these groups continue to pop up. Ben Gogman, who reported on this, joins me now. Ben, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. So this was just a horrifying read. I could barely get through it, frankly, because you have these drug users hiding out in plain sight. What made you want to tell this story, and how did you get to these groups?
Yeah, so to find this sort of content on social media, you actually don't even need to look for it. Oftentimes algorithms will sweep up some of this content and serve it to people sort of interested maybe in tangentially related things. So for instance, this meth content seems to be tied to LGBT populations. So oftentimes this content will pop up in LGBT people's feeds and become memes. So I'd seen this type of content a few times just in my feed. And in the last few months, I decided to go digging and actually looking, where is this coming from?
You actually spoke to about 10 current and former meth users, and some of the accounts were just tragic. Some of them were horrifying. What did they tell you about using on social media, and why is there such a pull? And you also uncovered that it makes it hard to actually quit, right? It makes it that much harder.
Yeah, so everyone's experience differed a lot based on how they use social media and what platforms they're using. One person described to me how they felt like Zoom actually pushed them further into isolation because they weren't using with other real people. They were using virtually, so they were doing it alone. Some people said that Zoom actually was, it provided a community for them in their darkest point. But other people more darkly said that Zoom became another addiction alongside of meth use. So one person told me that when he got the craving to use, when he was trying to quit, he wouldn't buy drugs first. He would go buy a webcam because those two things were so strongly associated with each other. So people are really dealing with addiction in new ways in this technological age. And that's a big part of why I wanted to tell this story.
One of the people you interviewed said at the end of it, you're just left sitting alone in a room. That really struck me. Ben, what struck you? What surprised you most in your reporting?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise to me was that the platforms are aware that this exists, and oftentimes they're not really taking the strongest stance. So Reddit, for instance, only bans the sale of drugs on their platform, but they let this meth group that has over 40,000 members thrive, where people are posting videos of injecting, encouraging other people to use drugs. So really, I think that this is a platform responsibility, and they're choosing how to respond.
Well, it's a really important story and a really important read. Ben Goggin, thank you so much for being here to break it all down for us. And if you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, you can call this number you see on your screen. Well, coming up, according to a new Bloomberg report, Rihanna's lingerie brand, Savage X, is gearing up for an IPO later this year. The brand's in the early stages of working with major banks like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley to make this happen. And if it does, her company could be valued at $3 billion or more. An IPO, or an initial public offering, basically makes it possible for the public to own stocks of a company, allowing it to grow its footprint. But Savage X is already a global leader in inclusive underwear. It's known for selling underwear for men and women in a range of sizes, targeting customers who might not have been represented by a major brand before. Pop culture expert Brian Balthazar joins me now to break this down. So why is this brand so valuable? Why is Rihanna doing so well at this?
Well, Rihanna saw something, and that was an untapped market. You know, you think back to years ago, people thought of Victoria's Secret as the leader in lingerie and underwear. But you look at those fashion shows, and they were all skinny girls, right? And so Rihanna saw the market for women and men also of all shapes and sizes and colors, and said there's a market there, and it has proven to be very correct and very successful.
Was this expected? I mean, when we first learned that she was thinking about going public, was this expected to happen?
Well, you know, it's already been a pretty busy year for them. They've raised some capital to open 5 stores just this past 2 months. So it's not surprising when you think about the fact that their primary customer is online. So now an increasingly popular marketing tool. It's actually a marketing tool to have a brick and mortar store now, to see that branding out there. It's kind of funny. It used to be that people went to malls. Now they're going online, and the fact that they're expanding into malls and brick and mortar, it looks like they're going to have as many as 10 stores open by the end of the year. So I'm not surprised, because she's an entrepreneur, and you could see this coming with the fundraising that they were already doing.
I want to go back to, I think, an important point that you made about the inclusivity. I mean, what does this say about the value, the fact that she saw, look, there's a real need for this? What's the message there when it comes to making products inclusive?
Well, I think it's interesting. As an entertainer, she herself, she had success with her beauty and makeup line. And that's another example where women of color, Black women, could go into a store and not find a shade that matched their skin tone. And, people used to refer to flesh-colored makeup, and it would just be white. And so she saw that market, and it was enormously successful, Fenty Beauty, making $550 million in its first year. So it stands to reason, expand that brand, form a new company that encompasses fashion as well. So, and I don't think you can underestimate how much entrepreneurship it takes to succeed in show business. It takes a lot of maneuvering, decision making, and she has proven to be successful at all of these three different categories.
Well, I think you raise a really important point. For so many women of color, for years they have gone in to buy makeup and felt like there was nothing that quite fit them. So I think I'm glad you highlighted that point, Brian. Finally, let's just talk about the power of celebrity writ large. You have celebrities like Kim Kardashian, George Clooney, Jessica Alba. They all have big brands now that are worth billions of dollars. What does it say about the power of celebrity?
I think what it really speaks to is reach. There's so many places to see people and content and brands. So if you have a following of several million people and you have an entrepreneurship a business brain, a brain for business, I think it's going to go a long way. You look at these people, they have huge followings from their origins in show business, and it really has translated to success for this handful of people right here.
It sure has. Well, we'll have to watch and see what happens. All right, Brian Balthazar, thanks so much. Appreciate you joining us on this Friday. Hope you have a great weekend. And that's a wrap for this hour. Hallie Jackson will be back in the seat for you on Monday. Same time, same place. I'm Kristen Welker. Have a wonderful weekend. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.